The main ideas from the best books in 30 minutes. Today, my different selves. What subpersonalities are, and how understanding them can help you work through trauma and regain inner wholeness. Author, Richard Schwartz. Classical psychology often describes the human mind as a single, solid structure. In that view, it can split only because of a dissociative disorder, for example, after a severe emotional trauma. The subpersonalities that appear after such a split are called alters. Schwartz offers a different perspective, the paradigm of multiplicity. In this view, the mind consists of several parts, or subpersonalities, that interact with one another. And that is normal. The problem is something else. The familiar idea of a single, whole mind makes us afraid of our subpersonalities and distrust them. Which ideas most strongly prevent us from making peace with the parts of our mind and building a constructive relationship with them? First, the doctrine of total sinfulness, the belief that a person is, by nature, full of bad thoughts and intentions, and only divine mercy can save them from falling into hell. Second, the triune brain theory, the belief that the mind includes an ancient reptilian brain responsible for survival at any cost, and more modern structures that restrain destructive impulses. Third, Freudian drive theory, the same message again. Under a thin layer of civilized thinking lie layers of aggressive, selfish desires. All these approaches come to the same conclusion. The only way to save us from ourselves is willpower, self-control, and discipline. In other words, suppression and taming of impulses. And this is where what you could call a war with yourself begins. From childhood, we learn to force our different selves to obey a strict, rational mind. We feel shame when we fail. And over time, an inner voice appears, sarcastic, harsh, and unforgiving, the inner critic. But the critic is also doomed to fail, because subpersonalities, like people, resist when they are shamed, pushed away, or defeated. The stronger your desire to get rid of a thought or a desire, the more insistently it returns. If a part of you behaves wrong, trying to overpower it is a bad strategy. Then you suffer not only from that disobedient part, but also from the actions of the inner tyrant critic. And the exiled part will still come back, whenever it gets a chance. A person who chooses this path often has to avoid triggering situations for the rest of their life. A more constructive path is to make contact with the parts that harm the system as a whole, understand the reasons behind their behavior, and work to neutralize the causes. Treat your difficult parts like a wise parent would, not like a harsh drill sergeant. This is how Schwartz arrives at the internal family systems model, IFS. This framework emerged in work with eating disorders. People often described a cycle like this. One part attacks them for the smallest mistake, another part then feels worthless and not good enough. That feeling is so painful that the person tries to reduce it through the quickest available relief, food. But then the inner critic activates again, and the circle repeats. Patients described complex relationships between their selves. They befriend each other, clash, and avoid one another. It truly resembles a large family, hence the metaphor. So what matters to understand about parts of the personality? First, they have been with you since birth. Second, they are not good or bad. Their driving force is the wish to protect the personality. Third, in early childhood, parts take on what Schwartz calls a burden. This happens against the background of a weak, true self. After that, parts lose contact with the self and can get stuck in traumatic roles, as if they remain inside that situation. Fourth, for parts to stop playing destructive roles, you need to earn their trust again. Fifth, every part of the personality matters and deserves love and respect. Schwartz offers an image. Just as sin separates a person from God, a burden separates individual parts from the true self. So what is a burden? A burden is a feeling or belief imposed by trauma. A part of the personality takes it on and then continues to carry and transmit it. The burden takes over and makes that part insensitive to rational arguments. For example, if a child was betrayed by important adults, one part may become burdened with the belief no one can be trusted. Later, that part will try to destroy relationships to avoid risk and keep confirming its conclusion. A burden can be personal, acquired through difficult life circumstances, or inherited. An inherited burden may come from parents, a people, or a culture. It penetrates deeper and it is harder to notice. Schwartz highlights 4 types of inherited burdens. Prejudice toward people of another race. Prejudice toward people of another sex. The belief that anything can be achieved only through individual effort. The belief that the world exists only on a material level. Along with personal burdens, this creates tension. The world feels dangerous, and other people look like enemies and rivals. The core aim of IFS is to ease the burden. And the key point is this: your parts are much wider, deeper, and larger than the burdens they carry. Now, an important point: a part is not good or bad. In a crisis, a part takes control and produces behavior that once helped you cope. The problem is that parts often overplay their role and keep running the old strategy long after the need is gone. That is why it is a mistake to think, for example, that a person with an addiction has a bad part inside that forces them to use. More often, there is a part desperately protecting them from emotional pain. Once, it made that choice as a way to survive, and it keeps repeating it. If you contact that part and help it see the crisis is over, it may change tactics. Now let's talk about roles. In IFS, 3 main roles are often described. The first role is exiles. These are your inner children, sensitive and vulnerable. They carry burdens of hurt, shame, fear, or betrayal by significant adults. When they blend with the self, they make you relive the trauma again and again. In many cultures, people are taught to push through and forget pain, and that only further injures these parts. Over time, we exile the parts that others dislike, and misty with them we lose resources, energy, and ourselves. The second role is managers. When there are many exiles, managers appear. Their job is to prevent exiles from emerging and to remove triggers that activate them. They resemble children who had to grow up too fast and take on parental duties without being ready. They make sure you do not stand out, do not take risks, do not enjoy yourself. They numb your feelings down to a level they consider safe. The third role is firefighters. They are also protectors, but they show up when managers fail and a trigger activates an exile anyway. Firefighters put out the flare-up of emotion or distract you until the fire inside dies down. And again, roles do not capture the full nature of parts. Exiles, managers, and firefighters are only roles. The parts themselves are deeper and richer than that. Now about the ego. The ego is often blamed for everything. But the ego is not some evil external enemy. It is part of you. In IFS, the ego is a cluster of protective parts focused on safety. You do not need to fight them. You need to listen to them and help them. Schwartz notes, the way a person treats other people is the way they treat the parts of their own personality. If there are difficulties in relationships, there is usually tension inside as well. And this is where the true self comes in. The true self is the essence of your personality. You do not need to teach it, develop it, or train it. It already knows how to build relationships with all parts. The key is to give it freedom to act. How can you tell the true self is present? By signs in your thinking and experience. Curiosity, calm, confidence, compassion, a creative approach, clarity, courage, an understanding of how things are connected. It is rare for all of these to appear at once. More often, you are blended with certain parts. But over time, parts begin to trust more and unblend from the self. And then you can experience a pure self state. A crucial point: the self is not the ego. The self is not a passive observer. It is an active participant in life. And if you can see yourself as if from the outside, you are not in a self state right now. IFS can be compared to attachment theory in child psychology. Your self needs to become a caring parent for your parts, an anchor, a secure attachment figure for them. Then, in the outside world, life becomes easier for your partner, your children, your parents, and your therapist. They do not have to carry your exiles. Often it works like this. An exile and its protector look for someone in the outside world who could lift the exile's burden. But there is no such savior outside. Only the self can heal a wounded part. Parts can project this distorted expectation onto real people and then, naturally, become disappointed. Schwartz compares the self-state to a religious or existential experience. It has several signs: a sense of unity and interconnectedness with everything that exists, a sense of being connected to something larger than the personal me, love and compassion toward people, unusual clarity, a weakening of the fear of death, And the key formula Schwartz emphasizes: when you are in a self state, you are not afraid of any of your parts, because there is nothing inside you stronger than the self. Now about blending. In IFS, blending means a situation where the emotions, thoughts, and impulses of a part merge with the self. Then the clear perspective of the self becomes distorted. This happens because parts do not trust the self and try to take control. Blending can be constant, or it can be triggered only in certain situations. But the self does not disappear. Its functioning simply becomes harder. The aim of therapy is to recognize the separateness of parts that are blended with the self and help them unblend. The goals and order of work look like this: to remove the burden from particular parts, to restore the inner hierarchy and return leadership to the self, to find harmony in how parts interact with the self, to train the skill of listening to the self in everyday life. An exile heals when the self brings it out of the past and into the present. The protector's energy is then freed and can be used for other goals. You also gain access to the emotions and resources of the healed exile, and that enriches the whole personality. One more principle runs through the whole model: fighting is useless. In the inner world and the outer world, pressure and punishment do not solve problems, they amplify them. Inside, fighting managers and firefighters only makes them stronger. Outside, if you label a part of yourself as bad, you easily assume the same bad parts exist in others. And then society chooses control and force instead of dialogue. Schwartz notes, in such a state, peoples demonize one another, leaders fear one another, and choose mutual intimidation instead of compromise. Now the practical part. To move closer to a self-state, Schwartz offers exercises. Most of them help you find protectors, managers, and firefighters, and build contact with them. Working with exiles is harder and riskier, so the author recommends doing that with a professional present. Exercise 1. How to make contact with a problematic part. Find a safe place and a comfortable position. Breathe deeply and evenly. Notice your thoughts and sensations. Listen. Is some part trying to reach you? Sometimes anxiety or tension in your neck or shoulders is a suppressed part that wants to deliver an important message. If you feel readiness for contact, try to sense where the part is, inside your body or as if outside it. Locating it helps separate it from the inner self. Notice what you feel toward this part. If contact is there, ask, what does it need, what is missing, and wait for an answer. The key is not to invent it. Let your rational mind become quiet. Ask, what will happen if this part stops acting in its usual way? The answer shows what it is trying to protect you from. Thank it. Then address all your other parts with words of acceptance and gratitude. The main idea is simple. When you focus on one part, you separate the self from it. Your personality naturally divides into an observer and the object being observed. Exercise 2. How to see how subpersonalities interact. Take a notebook and a pencil. Turn your attention inward. Connect with one part. Draw, schematically, where it is located. Sometimes it can feel outside your body. That is normal. Then wait for new clues, thoughts, images, emotions. Look for new parts and add them to the sketch. Artistic skill does not matter. What matters is to see the positions and record them. Gradually bring your attention back to the outside world. Look at your drawing and ask, what connects the parts that are close to each other? Do they protect one another or fight? Do they share one goal, or are they independent? And be sure to thank them. Exercise 3. How to notice parts and help them unblend from the self. In a calm and safe setting, focus on your parts. Find them in your body and direct your attention to them one by one. Invite each part to communicate with the self. Many parts took on destructive roles in childhood and lost contact with the self. It is important to show them that you have grown up and become stronger. Keep looking for new parts and getting acquainted. Then invite the parts you found to relax, together or separately. If it works, you may notice changes: easier breathing, more inner space, a sense of freshness. If nothing happens, that is also normal. Trust takes time. Notice any improvement and stay with it. This is how the self shows up in your body and mind. Exercise 4. Meditation on a problem. Find a safe place. Focus on your breath. Think of a problem that creates an inner conflict. See which parts are involved and how they relate to one another. Notice what you feel toward them. Speak to each part and ask it to explain its position. Reflect together. What happens if the other side wins? The key is to listen to both sides. You do not have to agree with either. Reassure the parts that the decision will not harm them, and ask them to trust the self. Exercise 5. The path to yourself. Imagine a road and step onto it. Greet your parts and tell them you are going to walk down this road. Notice how they react. Reassure them you will return. Take a few steps. If thoughts appear, it means some parts are still with you. Politely ask them to step back. If you see yourself from the outside, it means a part is observing you. Help that part separate too. After that, you can experience the world from your own perspective. Keep walking slowly. When parts let go, you may feel something unusual: freshness, freedom, relief, confidence, energy. This is the energy of the self. Remember it. With practice, you can access it at any time. When you feel it is time to return, turn back. Thank your parts for their patience and trust. Try to share this energy with them. Exercise 6. Keep the self with you. Repeat the previous exercise, but try to keep the self state after you open your eyes. Parts may interfere. Reassure them that everything is under control. When they believe it is safe, you can maintain the self state for a very long time. And now, 10 key takeaways. 1. Classical psychology considers personality splitting a rare event after severe trauma. But Schwartz's experience suggests that several parts can easily coexist in every person. 2. Some parts act irrationally and may harm you and others. Many doctrines suggest suppressing such parts, which reinforces shame and guilt. 3. The more you suppress a problem part, the more it resists. The alternative is gentle communication. 4. Parts are born with the personality. They are not good or bad. They deserve respect. Their motivation is protection. 5. A part can be traumatized, get stuck, and carry a burden, an imposed feeling or belief. The purpose of IFS is to ease this burden. 6. Parts can play the roles of exiles and protectors, managers, or firefighters. Exiles carry pain. Protectors try to prevent that pain from breaking through. 7. Beyond parts, there is the true self, a fearless and very powerful essence of the personality. The self can heal parts and lift burdens by making contact and rebuilding trust. 8. The self-state resembles a spiritual or existential experience, a sense of connection to something larger, clarity, love, and compassion, and a weaker fear of death. 9. Parts can blend with the self and cloud the mind. IFS helps you recognize parts, lift burdens, restore the inner hierarchy, and show parts that the self can lead. 10. Pressure and coercion intensify problems, inside and outside. What works is not control and force, but gentle dialogue and the search for compromise. If you enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future books, and write in the comments which book we should cover next.